Markets out here are starting weaker. Sydney, also Wellington, down about 1.5% because of what happened on Wall Street overnight. A negative lead. The Dow down 2.5%. The Nasdaq showing the most weakness, down more than 4%. The S&P off 3% and a bit more.
Well, let's bring in Leo Millimed. He is chairman at Millimed & Associates, joining us now live from Chicago. And staying with us is Ron Ianieri, chief market strategist at Options University, who is our guest host. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Leo, let me get to you first of all. Just a moment ago, Ron was saying that he believes we might not be out of the woods for possibly as long as 1.5, 2 more years. What's your take on what's going on?
Well, I thoroughly agree with that. I think that what we're talking about is a real global event, and the housing crisis that really caused all of this is not going to go away overnight, no matter what the government does or no matter what anybody does. I think 2 years is the correct viewpoint for the crisis to get itself out of the system.
So, Leo, is this going to be as bad as 1929?
Well, I don't think so, because you have a lot of safety net for the ordinary citizen. You have Social Security. You have other kind of safeguards, so that I don't think you're going to see lines on the street or things like that. But in terms of our lifetime, it's going to be as bad as it can get, because there's going to be a whole lot of unemployment and a whole lot of credit debt that has to be taken care of, and people are just not going to. The consumer is going to stop buying. I mean, once the whole impact of what's happening finally reaches them, you're going to see a standstill for some extended period of time.
Certainly echoes what you've been saying, Ron. I mean, 1929 and the policy missteps that led to the Great Depression in the 30s has been well documented. Have you seen any policy missteps that you think could be leading us into a situation that is worse than it needed to be, Ron?
Yeah, I think that the federal government of the United States has started off the wrong way to begin with, and they proceeded down the wrong road for a while. I think only now are they getting to the idea that we have to start actually attacking the pumps and getting the pumps on, not volume of water. And what I mean by that is, there was enough money around. It just wasn't moving. And what they couldn't figure out was, how do we get it moving? And what their initial thing is, and I think Leo will probably agree with this, is that, they just went back to the old playbook and said, okay, what did they do back when? And, the problem now is that this is a global economy. Leo said we're seeing a real, a situation that we haven't seen before. This is a historic situation, and it's historic.
Our grandkids will ask us about
exactly. It's historic from the standpoint that this is the first united global financial problem. I mean, this is global, and I think that when you sit there and look and try to compare, the 1929 crash and this recession and that recession, you're looking back at incidents that were just one country type incidents. This is an incident that's worldwide, and trying to get coordinated in how to fight it is one thing. But to sit there and understand that this is historic, you don't have a precedent to go back to fix this.
Leo, you've seen many things in your lifetime. What do you reckon about the policy steps that we've seen so far?
Well, I think Ron is exactly right, because what the government tried to do is find a magic bullet, like the one solution that will be the silver bullet and solve the problem. In a global event such as this, there is no silver bullet, and I don't care what you do. A lot of the steps they took didn't even count and were wrong. They didn't understand the globality of the problem, nor the depth of the problem. I mean, I know 6 months ago some of these same officials were saying they're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Well, there was a locomotive coming at them is what it was, and there was no light at the end of the tunnel. So they're only now beginning to grapple with what has to really be done, and some of the things they're doing now will make sense. But again, it isn't going to have an immediate reaction. This is going to take a good deal of time to get through the system, to filter through the system, and to be digested by it. The cake is baked, and you're not going to change that.
Okay.
I was about to say, it's kind of funny, because I was going to say that I disagree with Leo. There was a light at the end of the tunnel. They did see it. It was the oncoming train. And they've created a train wreck. They've created a train wreck. That $700 bailout package was the most I mean, it was ridiculous. It was not thought out well.
They should have gone right into banks from the beginning.
They should have gone right into banks, but you know what? That bailout package made the U.S. look bad. Yeah. And it's an unfortunate situation.
The market certainly didn't respond positively.
They villainized the senators and the congressmen that voted this thing down. To be honest, those guys should have been congratulated for not because that they weren't true patriots and they weren't Americans, but they looked at a bill, looked at it, $700 billion, and went, A, this is not nearly enough, and it's been proven now that it wasn't nearly enough. B, how do you have a plan with no backup? That's not a plan.
And the American taxpayers
Paulson was asked directly in testimony, what happens if this doesn't work? And you know what his answer was? I don't know. I mean, that's not a plan.
Yeah, that's not too good.
They had a couple beers, sat down one night and said, hey, let's ask for $700 billion. Why? Why not? I like the number 7. You know, what it did was, you know, it gave people a false hope that the passing of the plan was going to bail us out. And unfortunately, all it did was not bail us out, and now we have to go back and ask for more money, and the government has to throw more money in.
Just to play the devil's advocate here, okay, maybe number 1, it was branded badly as a bailout package. Number 2, maybe it'll just take a little time to work.
No, the numbers were wrong, and that's the problem. I mean, just take here, a perfect example. J.P. Morgan bought WAMU, and Citibank was in the process of buying Wachovia. They took a look at 2 portfolios which are gigantic and represent a good representation of the overall market and that credit crisis. Both of those portfolios were being written down to somewhere near 15%. Paulson, to his own admittance, his $700 billion, that number came from $1.4 trillion, 5%. Yeah. Well, wait a second. If these guys are writing down this stuff at 15%, which is obviously a little high, 5% is way off. That's the wrong number. That's the problem.
Okay. Leo, come back in here. Leo, where do we go from here? We've, been debating about the pros and cons of past moves. Where do we go from here? I mean, I know that you don't really predict market moves or whatever, but nonetheless, do you think the Fed has got more work to do here? Are we looking at a 0 interest rate policy like we had in Japan?
Well, we may get to that, but I don't know if it'll get there right away. But I do believe, much of what's been done will probably cause some kickback up here in the stock market. But you can't, the stock market is not the final determinant here, nor is it the final sage of what's going to happen. I think there may be a rally in the stock market in the coming months. It may take a while until you see it then plateau out, and then by that time you're going to know the full gravity of the problem, and I think the market will sink again. So I'm kind of in agreement. Whoever said that V-bottoms don't work, I kind of agree with that. This V-bottom here, I think, is going to be a temporary relief based on everybody's going to look to see whether some of this liquidity actually will help, and it will help somewhat. Yeah. But the problem isn't over because it's so extensive.
Yeah, Leo, let's focus on the financials on the banks if we could. $250 billion, 9 financial institutions taking a direct stake in them. I mean, obviously, Treasury Secretary Paulson, who is set to speak in just a couple of minutes, he says, look, just do it. Lend the money out that we're giving you. That's the whole point of taking it. And 2, he's hoping that it's going to encourage consolidation, that is, mergers. Are both of those things going to happen, do you think?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen because everybody is a bit panicked, and I think this is the wrong attitude here. He was throwing things at the wall to see which would work and which wasn't. He started off on the wrong course, tried to save Bear Stearns, in effect, from bankruptcy, and then decided to let the market work against Lehman, and then decided, no, we got to save WAMU. There was no comprehensive plan. I think they finally got it, and at the moment now, they understand the gravity and depth of this thing and are finally looking at things that may work. But again, I want to point out, nothing is going to be a magic bullet. This is something that has to be digested. I just lost them.
Leo, if I could put this to you, do you think a new administration in the White House will come up with any new ideas to help us get us out of this mess?
Did I talk too loud?
Leo, can you still hear us?
Okay, let me just put that question to Ron then. Ron, what do you think?
No. No. The thing is I think that, we're talking about the markets becoming more and more globalized. And as they become more and more globalized, independent governments have less pull and less ability to do direct influence to a global economy. I think that you've seen the last of the United States presidents that was really able to control an economy when you saw Reagan. I think that was really marking the end of the ability of a president to directly, immediately change and affect the U.S. economy. It's too global now.